Hey guys, today I figured I would make a theological video talking about my experience of becoming Lutheran. So you can watch my last video to see how I became Lutheran after my brother became Lutheran and everything like that. I'm more talking today about my experience of how it's been after I became Lutheran. So before I was Lutheran, I knew nothing about church history. I knew nothing about where the Bible came from. I knew nothing about anyone who came before the last 100 years of our history. All I knew about Martin Luther was that he nailed something to the wall in the 9 to 5 Thesis, and that's all I knew about church history. What I thought of church history was that the church started after Jesus, they were persecuted a bunch, and then the Catholic Church came out of Rome or something, and then started oppressing them, burning them at the stake, stuff like that, up until sometime in the last several 100 years. I knew Martin Luther did something back then, and then at some point the church just got past the oppression of Rome and became what we have today somehow. I knew nothing about simple theological stuff, even though the pastors probably talked about it whenever I was Baptist. Never talked about any of it whenever I was Charismatic, but I knew faith meant believing in God. I did not know what grace meant. I did not know what it meant to be saved by grace through faith. None of that. I had no idea what the Lutheran Church even was. I knew there was churches that were Lutheran churches, but all I knew about them was that the pastors wear the white collars and that they probably had pride or something for wearing those, because why would you wear those and look religious whenever you can just wear jeans and a t-shirt and be more humble or something? I had no idea what anyone else's views were on communion, baptism, anything like that. I had heard people baptize infants and stuff like that, but I knew nothing about why they believed that. Didn't even try. While I was charismatic, I always said that I believe this because the Bible proves it. And if someone can show me that the Bible proves something else, then I will believe it. I had no idea that that meant I would eventually believe the Lutheran theology, but it did. It took me months to believe or even understand what the Lutherans believe about the Bible. And I'm still having a lot of trouble changing my beliefs changing my mindset from that of charismatic and Baptist to Lutheran, to the Lutheran mindset. When I was charismatic, I saw lots of healings, actual healings. I saw fake ones too, but I saw lots of actual healings that were not just like, I've got a headache and it went away. Well, that's fine, but it could be endorphins or something like that. I saw actual healings like we couldn't have children and now we have children, or my great grandma who had leukemia and was healed of it, or my grandma who had a broken rib and was healed of it, my mom who was born with backwards feet that turned around after she was prayed for at a crusade of some sort, or any number of things like that. I saw lots of healings, and I was like, I'm not going to believe in Lutheran theology unless they can actually explain what is happening when someone is healed. Because up to that point, the only pushback I had heard against the charismatic view of healing was that God just doesn't heal anyone at all. Everything is fake that the charismatics believe. And so I was like, I've seen healings happen, literal healings, and so if you're telling me that it doesn't happen at all, then you're just wrong. The Bible also does not say anywhere that healings cannot happen anymore. The Lutherans do not believe that God cannot or does not heal anymore. They believe He can, they believe He does sometimes, and they believe that He wants people to be healthy, but it's a very complicated gray area. But they do not say that God does not heal anymore or does not want to. So that's one reason why I accepted the Lutheran theology because they didn't just say it doesn't happen anymore at all. They say we don't understand how it works, but it still happens and can happen. Also, whenever I was charismatic, I could not believe it because the best sermons that I heard as I was charismatic were from Baptist preachers and preachers who were not charismatic or spirit-filled people. All of the preachers that I listened to as I was charismatic were preaching about basically three things: health, prosperity, getting more faith. Because if you have more faith, supposedly, then your life will be completely fine. If you don't have faith, then your life will be terrible. Every single sermon that I heard by charismatics was, here's how you get faith, here's how you get healing, here's how you get more money. I just assumed, because of people like Todd White, that the more preaching you hear, the more you read the Bible, the closer you'll get to that plateau of, now I'm able to heal people and operate in the Spirit in a way that people are getting healed and all this stuff by you just on demand, like the apostles and the disciples and stuff. It's a constant hamster wheel of following. I have to find the big preacher, the big man of God, get him to pray for me, so I'll just be there now. I'll just be at that level, living in health, living in prosperity, all of that. I never had peace while I was a charismatic because I was constantly hyper vigilant, hyper aware of anything that was going bad in my life. I had psychosomatic sickness, which I did not know was a thing, because I was constantly dwelling on, am I sick? How do I resist it? How do I stop it? What am I doing wrong? What is wrong with my faith? Why do I not have enough faith? Even though I somehow had enough faith to get saved, but that's beside the point, because you can have enough faith to get saved, but you have to build up your faith for like 10 years or more in order to get health and healing, which God says you can ask for. Unless you have gone from charismatic to Lutheran or something similar, you have no idea how much peace you can get from trusting God with your problems instead of trusting yourself with your problems. If you are charismatic, you cannot cast your cares on the Lord, as the Bible says to do, because all of your cares are on you. It's your job. Deal with it. In Lutheran theology and Reformed theology, and a bunch of those, you trust in God. He handles everything. You ask Him for healing. You ask Him for prosperity. You ask Him for any of these things. You do not demand it in a New Age kind of law of attraction way. You trust God. You give everything to God. Cast your cares upon the Lord, for He cares for you. That is how you have peace. Actually trusting God with your problems instead of trying to take care of them yourself. And you want to know another thing that's driven me towards Lutheranism, away from charismatic stuff? Talking to them after I have become Lutheran, the most common thing I have heard is, your theology is wrong because it is. They won't tell me why it's wrong because they actually don't know what any of the Lutheran theology is, or how it's Catholic because they don't know what Catholic theology is either. But if you don't know what Lutheran theology is, confessional Lutheran, not ELCA or the liberal stuff, then I would suggest find a small catechism or something like that. Talk to a Lutheran pastor and find out what they believe. Since I said that I would believe anything that the Bible proves, I'm now Lutheran, and I'm very happy and have had peace for the first time in 10 years. So I hope that helps someone out there.